This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. What you just heard there was me having a little bit of a play with something I don't usually use that much anymore, amp modelling software, specifically Guitar Rig 6 by Native Instruments. I don't use that kind of stuff much these days because I'm absolutely smitten and in love with this little Marshall DSL-1 combo that I tend to use for most of the guitar tones that I record these days. But it is fun to have a play around with this kind of thing from time to time, and it's always there as a backup. And this being Wednesday, what we're doing on Wednesday at the moment is answering viewers' questions, and I do apologise to whoever it was concerned because I've lost the screenshot of the comment. But basically somebody, and if that was you, thank you so much, but I can't find the screenshot, I do apologise. Someone asked me to give a little bit of a guide on how to set up tones and that kind of thing in specifically Guitar Rig. So that's what we're looking at today. So what I'm going to do now is take you through how I dialed in those tones that you just heard used in that particular piece there. Okay, let's take a look at the tones I was using in that piece. I basically find I very rarely need more than 3 or 4 tones, and that's what I've got dialed in here. And these tend to be the ones, if I'm using Guitar Rig, I'll end up using. There's a crunch rhythm, kind of classic rock power chordy sort of stuff. Low gain lead, a more high gain lead tone, and what we've got here, warm clean. I always find it's best practice to dial in the sound of the amp first of all and then add effects to sort of garnish it. So let's turn the effects off. There's a bit of chorus there and a couple of different types of echo. We'll turn all that off and just have a listen to the amp tone. You can see I've got the high white model dialed in here. For those not familiar with high white in guitar, that's basically their way of saying high watt, which is a British amplifier that's kind of known for its warm, clean tone. Hence why I've called this preset here warm, clean. So just looking at the way the amp is dialed in at the moment, it sounds like this. First of all, I'm playing all of these examples here on Blondie, my signature guitar. So basically the amp is sounding like this. So that's the basic tone, and it's warm and it's clean, isn't it? For that kind of sound, a little bit of chorus is, I was thinking, a nice addition. So let's add the chorus to this. This is one of the modulation effects available in Guitar Rig. It's just called choral, and it's chorusy, but it's not got that sort of over-the-top chorus that I find a lot of presets seem to kind of. It's like they lay it on with a trowel almost, but this sounds like this. Just adds that sort of nice Andy Summers kind of shimmer to things. To that, I'm going to add a little bit of tape echo. So these are the settings here. It's not actually real tape echo, it's a digital recreation, but it's based quite obviously, given the sort of livery that we've got here, on the Roland Space Echo unit that's had various incarnations over the years. And what I use this for is just to give it, almost in lieu of reverb, it just makes it sound a little bit kind of ambient, like this. Hear that kind of decay that you've got on there? I'll play a chord. So I've just knocked the guitar's volume down a little bit. See what I mean? It's got that sort of lo-fi analog kind of softness to it, which I like. Then the other type of delay, and we're going to be using this on all of the presets I'm talking about here, is this one. I use this twin delay. What this does is I use it as a stereo widener. You can see basically to stereo delay, and I've got the essentially the left-hand side of the stereo picture absolutely just turned all the way down, nothing going on there whatsoever. And on the right hand side you can see I've got 31 milliseconds, between 25 to 30ish milliseconds is what I usually use of delay. Feedback is turned right the way down, so we're only getting a single repeat, and that repeat is turned up as loud as the dry signal, so I've got the level maxed out there. And what that's doing is it's giving me on the right hand channel an exact replica of what's happening on the dry signal, but 31 milliseconds later, which just gives us a nice little bit of stereo kind of wideness. Here's just a little, I'll strum a bit of a chord or something and play with it off. And then let's turn it on. It's a subtle thing, but it's more noticeable actually on the overdriven sounds, but it's one of those things that you can easily get addicted to, and I kind of am. You can see I've called this preset ADT for auto double tracking, and that is essentially what I'm using it for. So now I've been messing around with that preset, let's make sure it's all saved, and we will go to the crunch rhythm tone, which was the sound that I opened up the piece with. Anything overdriven, it's always got to be a Marshall sound or something similar to it for me, and you can see I'm using the JCM 800 patch here. Well, basically I've got the preamp dialed down low, but with the boost on, which just for me gives a nicer sound, a more kind of authentic sound, I guess, than kind of having the boost off, but the preamp dialed all the way up. Once again, let's turn the effects off. Only delay and reverb on this, nothing else, and hear what the raw sound is. Goes like this. That for me is, quintessentially 70s rock. That's AC/DC, that's Bad Company, that's all those great bands from that era, even though the JCM 800 is not an amp that you associate with that period. But for me, this is how I get that sound. Then once again, adding the ADT onto that, you'll notice the the kind of the stereo wideness a little bit more on this than on that clean sound. I don't know why, it just seems to affect it that way. So once again, with the delay off, and then with it on. Very, very, very sort of 70s kind of sound. You'll find that's a recurring theme in most of the things I'm talking about. Then to that I add this vintage verb on the gold short setting, which is a very, very subtle kind of sound. It just adds a little bit of air to the mix like this. Yeah, just that sort of little bit of a decay after the sound. Let's hear it with it off. And then with it on. Just puts a nice little kind of halo around it without blurring the edges of the sound too much, like, excessive reverb can do. So that's my sort of power chordy rhythm guitar tone. Let's now look at the low gain lead. So again, you can see the ADT and the same reverb setting, and I'm just basically going for the clean tone that I was using here, the high watt tone, but with just the channel volumes cranked up a little bit, just to give it a little bit of fur around the edges, something to kind of take the to kind of add a little bit of sustain, I guess, or a little bit of just body to the tone. So it sounds like this. Let's hear it without the effects. And then just add the ADT and the reverb. And that just sits in a mix really nicely, as well as you heard, as a tone that you can play low gain lead sort of stuff. If I was to pick up a guitar with single coil pickups, maybe dial the gain back a little bit and add tape echo to it, you wouldn't be far away from a kind of a Hank Marvin clean tone there. It's because Hank is often thought that uses a crystal clean tone. It doesn't. There's a little bit of fur around the edges when you listen to when you listen closely. So then that's the low gain lead sound. The rock lead sound is essentially, if we go back to the crunch rhythm tone, there's the crunch rhythm tone, JCM 800, matched cabinet, ADT and a bit of reverb. Let's have a look at the rock lead, and it's basically the same thing. I've got the preamp dialed up a little bit higher. But, as you would in the real world, if you want to turn a Marshall into a fire-breathing monster, throw a tube screamer in front of it. And once again, let's hear the tone without the delay and the reverb. And I'll turn the tube screamer off as well, so you can kind of hear the raw sound. It's basically like this. A little bit more grunt to it than the power chord sound because of that. I've got the preamp up a little bit higher, but then add in the tube screamer, doing what a tube screamer does. This tube screamer in Guitar Rig 6 is absolutely excellent. It's very, very realistic. And then just once again, same ADT and the same vintage verb, just to add that stereo width and a little bit of air to the sound. So. And that is very much my kind of lead tone. It's ballsy and sustainful, but yet it's still, you can still, when you plug a Strat into that, you can still tell it's a Strat. You can still tell the different guitars apart. All of these tones, I will occasionally, if I'm going from, say, a Les Paul to a Telecaster or something like that, I'll occasionally just tweak the EQ on whatever amp I'm using, just in the context of a mix. You kind of dial up the sound and you think, well, okay, yeah, that's great, but it could be, it's a little bit boomy, so just back the bass off a little bit, or it's a little bit kind of harsh in the treble, so back the treble off a little bit. Little sensible adjustments like that you would make with a real amp anyway, depending upon the room you're playing in and the guitar that you've got plugged in. But those are essentially the core of the tones that I use in Guitar Rig 6. So there you go, that's how I do it. I don't really kind of think in terms of using software. I just dial it in like an amp and just mess around until I've got the sound that I want, and then tweak it once it's in the mix. A little bit more bass, a little bit less treble, that kind of thing. Incidentally, for all my wonderful Patreon supporters, there is a full tab of that piece of music in both Guitar Pro and PDF formats, along with that explanation clip that you've just seen there, the clip of me playing the solo and a jam track for you to play along with for yourself. All of that is up on my Patreon page. There's the address and the link is in the description. $3 or £2.50 a month gets you access to all of these additional bits and pieces and goodies that go along with these YouTube videos. Massive thanks to everyone who supports me in that or any of the other ways, all of which are linked down below in the description. And that is pretty much the video for today, folks. Hope you've found what you've seen to be informative and useful in some small way, and if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like while you're at it. Don't forget, as always, the live stream every Friday 5 p.m. UK time, gremlins permitting. We had a little attack of that a few weeks ago, didn't we? It's a great way to kick off the weekend because all we do is drink beer and talk about music and guitars, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.